Hello, children, and welcome to our weekly look into the horrifyingly dreadful excuse of bedtime stories that irresponsible parents used to tell their children hundreds of years ago. Just like the 17th century version of Sleeping Beauty, told by the monstrous storyteller Jean Baptiste Basile. Once upon a fucked up time in a land far, far away, a great lord and his wife celebrated the birth of their first and only daughter and named her Talia. But the celebration was cut short when the lord's trusty fortune tellers informed him that his daughter, beautiful and graceful as she was, would one day be weak enough to die from the sting of a simple splinter. Not to be out-crazied by his posse of fortune tellers, the lord immediately burned every sheet, fabric, flower, and plant that might sting his shockingly weak newborn. Years passed, and surprisingly, the fragile and overprotected baby grew up to become a feeble, socially crippled, but beautiful young woman. One day, Talia, in an attempt to fight off the mind-numbing boredom that came with being locked up in the same house every day since you were born, calls to a woman who is twirling her spindle near Talia's window. "Hey, you there! Can I give you a hand?" The woman, not knowing that Talia was better equipped to live in a plastic bubble than she was to handle any pointy things, said, "Sure." Surprised to no one, Talia managed to finally fulfill the most pathetic of prophecies and fall dead on the spot in the moment that the splinter of flax got stuck in her finger. Devastated, Talia's father took her lifeless body to one of his abandoned houses out in the woods, where he laid her on a bed and left her to rest in peace. Or so he thought, because it didn't take long before none other than the king himself stumbled upon the abandoned mausoleum while on a routine hunting trip. When the king found Talia's motionless body, two things were brought to his attention. One, Talia, lifeless as she might have been, was still far more beautiful than most of the women in his kingdom. And two, nobody was watching. 9 months later, Talia's not-so-lifeless body gave birth to two beautiful children, and in an uncanny display of survival instinct, both babies managed to crawl up mommy's motionless body in order to drink some of their much-needed mom milk. However, unlike the king, the babies weren't able to get through Talia's clothes and found themselves sucking at her fingers, until finally the splinter that had rendered her unconscious was pulled out. "What the hell, man?" Talia presumably said as she woke from her coma-like state. "We're hungers," the babies presumably said as they were finally fed, and Talia realized that she was now not only alive and blessed to be alive, but she was a mother, even though she had no memory of ever conceiving babies in the first place. But the jovial meeting was soon interrupted as the king himself finally came back, coincidentally, after 9 months of absence, only to be as shocked by the fact that not only was Talia alive and well, but he had fathered both of her children. Of course I knew that you'd be fine out here alone with my babies," the king said lovingly. "You did? Oh my God! I love you so much," Talia said stupidly. The king then proceeded to abandon his newly discovered family in the forest, but with the pinky promise that he would soon return, because he loved them so much. Unfortunately for Talia, the queen had become suspicious of his king's love affairs in the forest and sent out her men to fetch the young lover along with her two children. Once they arrived at the castle, the queen escorted the captive trio to the castle's kitchen, and with all the grace you would expect from a member of medieval royalty, she said, "Chop the babies up into pieces and serve them into your cheating king." The cook, being the only non-idiot or non-asshole in the story, proceeded to hide the children and just served the stew with regular chicken meat. "By the soul of my ancestors, this is good," said the king in typical idiot fashion. "Eat, eat! You are eating your own," said the queen, unsuspiciously. Halfway through his second bowl of stew, the king pieces together the queen's evil plan and races to the kitchen to find his newborn babies safely hidden from the danger by the only redeemable character in this story, the cook. The king embraces his bastard children when he notices a fire in the courtyard. Surprised by the lack of knowledge and control he has over his own house, he dashes to the courtyard where he finds his queen about to burn Talia alive for the crime of unconsciously agreeing to be her king's royal side chick. But she is intercepted by the king, who in a character-defining moment is forced to choose between the woman who he has spent his entire life with, the queen of his kingdom and the sunshine of his mornings, or the girl he made out with once because he thought she was either dead or in a coma. As the flames consume the queen's deafening screams, the king embraces Talia and his 2 newborn children as they all look forward to their new life of love and royalty, proving once and for all that I'd rather be struck with the bubonic plague than live in the medieval ages and read these stories to my children. The end.